How often have your own thoughts kept you from doing something? When we judge ourselves, we hold ourselves back from getting closer to our goals and our desires. We'll discuss judging ourselves, why it matters, and more on this episode of today's Antidote.
Stay tuned for today's Antidote, brought to you by the Renegade Success Network. Today's Antidote features a healthy dose of thought-provoking insights and information for business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and nonprofit professionals. Each day since March of 2020, this program has offered that one thing to help you continue on your own unique pathway to success. And now, Renegades, we bring you Bob Graham and Tom Brush.
Hey, Tom, did your own thoughts hold you back from starting that introduction?
Actually, no.
Okay.
I got a message from StreamYard that said that I wasn't connected to the stream, wasn't being streamed to my Facebook page. And so I took a half a second, well, maybe 20, to get it squared away. So Sorry for that long
that's
pause.
that's okay. I was concerned and there wasn't anything I could do. So it was fun.
You felt powerless, didn't you?
That's it. How are you today?
I'm doing very well, thanks. How about yourself?
Good. I'm good.
Well, good morning and welcome everyone to today's
Sorry, that didn't go well.
I was wondering what was going on there. Our daily broadcast and podcast. And every day we have a discussion around a topic, the topic for the week. This week's topic is judging ourselves. And today we'll talk about why it matters. Before we get to that, though, we want to make sure that we let you know that if you happen to be listening, please feel free to share thoughts and ideas. Not listening. If you happen to be watching on your favorite social media, please feel free to share your thoughts and ideas in the comments, and we'll respond to them because we know that that helps impact not only our show, but what else is going on with others in the world. So we invite you to share that in the comments, whether you are watching us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, or
LinkedIn Live.
Yes.
You're freezing on us, Tom.
Yeah, I don't know what really going on there, but hopefully people can still hear me. That's all that matters.
They can.
So
far, so good.
And then at the end of our show today, Bob and I will each offer our one thing, our today's antidote, to help you figure out how to take your next step along your own unique pathway to success. And you may use it today, or you may not use it until somewhere later down the road, but you will have it in your toolkit so that you can bring it out. If you have an antidote you'd like to share for today, please feel free to do that as well, as we know that what you have to offer will and could add value to someone else. So I think I'm still frozen, but that's okay. I'm going to keep moving forward like nothing is happening.
Keep talking, Tom. I'll do jazz hands to keep things flowing.
There you go. So Bob, why don't you, what are you?
Hey, looks like it's me. So it's time for celebrations. And as you know, every day we start with a celebration because it gets us in the right mindset. It also gives us something to be excited about that we've already achieved or something we've observed that we can build on for the day. So I'm going to celebrate a teacher I've gotten to know. So over the last month or two, I've gotten to know a woman who teaches 4-year-olds. And she teaches them in what I thought was a really great part of the world. But unfortunately, in the educational world, there are always kids with problems. And each time I talk to her, she describes to me some of the problems that kids have. Their behavioral problems, their listening problems, there are a whole bunch of things. And sometimes the kids will even try to hit her. Sometimes the kids will lash out at other kids. And somehow she manages each day to do her job. And I'm amazed at that. And today is National Teacher Appreciation Day. And I got to tell you, for Jen and all the other teachers out there, can't thank you enough for what you do. You change young kids' lives every single day. We would not be as great a civilization and society were it not for your incredible efforts and what you do to help kids every single day. So enjoy Teacher Appreciation Day. Celebrate a teacher. I can tell you, I've been a teacher for years. I've taught thousands of college students. Every now and then, one of my former students will send me a note. They'll connect with me on LinkedIn and tell me what they're up to. They'll thank me for something. They'll say, hey, you know that thing you taught me that I wasn't really paying attention to? I use it all the time now. So if you've got a teacher that's changed your life on Teacher Appreciation Day today, go out and celebrate them. So now I'm going to shift from that into our topic. And our topic is judging ourselves. And it's kind of funny that Tom is not here right now because I can talk about this topic freely for the rest of the day. And we're talking about why it matters. And why it matters is it can get in our way. When we judge ourselves, when we make decisions about what we've accomplished or not accomplished, we get in the way of ourselves. I can't tell you how many times I've judged what I was doing or what I've done, and it's discouraged me from doing something else. Rather than using it as an opportunity to learn about what I've discovered, I use it as an opportunity to slow me down or stop me. And I don't think I'm alone. A lot of the people I've coached have the same limiting beliefs. It's real easy to do. We expect or we demand, sometimes I think I demand of myself that I'm going to do really well with something that's just going to work perfectly, and it doesn't. And rather than go, well, I learned something from that. This is really great. Next time I'll do this, this, and this. I tend to go, oh, that was a failure. What was I thinking? I'm not talented enough. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have tried that. I don't have the ability. Why do other people have this amazing talent to accomplish these things, and why can't I? And those kinds of beliefs can be very limiting. They can stand in our way because if you think about it, and as Tom has said many times in the last couple days, weeks, we have the opportunity to learn from our experiences. We can learn the great things that happen. We can learn the things that we might want to do a little differently next time, and we can grow from that experience. It allows us to be able to take on new challenges in new ways. Hey, Tom, nice of you to come back. I was starting to judge myself and think that maybe you had enough of this program. So
the thought passed through my mind, and then it went out quickly. So.
Okay. Well, we did celebrations, and just to catch you up, it is National Teacher Appreciation Day, and I was talking about a teacher that I've gotten to know and the challenges she has with her classroom students. I also encourage people to shout out to a teacher that they know that's made a difference in their lives on this special day. And so we're talking about judging ourselves, Tom, and I was talking about how I tend to judge myself pretty harshly. And as a result, I often stand in my way of achieving greater things. What are your thoughts on why it matters that we judge ourselves or that we don't judge ourselves? I know you have a lot to say on this topic.
Yeah, and clearly something's going on because you see my green screen, not my office in the background. So.
I like the true green screen. It's very literal.
The cat's out of the bag that I don't have that's just a virtual background. So I think that, it's interesting as I was looking at this topic and thinking about why it matters. And I think that it's, I was trying to decide if I was like, and I even told you before that I thought about changing the topic because I'm not sure. I was trying to decide if it truly did matter if we judge ourselves. And I think that it is normal. I think if we are not judging ourselves, we are just blindly going. And at the same time, I see the challenges that are created once we do judge ourselves. And so I think that it's just a natural course that we have that momentary judgment. And then how we move on from it is the important piece. Because I think the judgment only holds us back. And so if we can at least see that we are identifying something that's going on, that at least that allows us to think about, okay, how do I then move forward from that? And I think without that, we would just blindly move forward and never really have that momentary pause before we then started to figure out what to do next. I think the challenge lies in that the pause isn't usually a pause. It's a hard stop. And that hard stop is what slows us down from moving forward. I just think about if we never judged our actions, I think we would just assume that we were always doing everything in a way that was most real for us, which could be okay.
Mm-hmm.
There could be value to that in not slowing you down. But I think it's human nature to react to a result that you get, right? So that, the show had some technical difficulties and still looks like managing through some of those. And so it's easy. It's almost to say like, I could just be going on, oh, no, nothing, doesn't matter. Who cares? Just keep going. And at the same time, it would be like, well, it's not the way that I want to present it. So I have a momentary judge of, I could have, should have, would have done this. And at the same time, sometimes those things are out of our control, or we just don't consider it at the moment, because we can't ever consider every possible situation and scenario and outcome and potential results before we move forward. And so things are going to happen that are out of our control. And so I really do think that it's important to at least be aware. To me, the thing judging might be a little bit harsh, because I feel like when I think of judging, I think of the judge who sits up there in a court and makes a final verdict that is binding, at least until some other judge makes another verdict, potentially if there's a retrial or something else. And that final verdict means that whatever the results are the results that you're always going to get. And that's what it gets us stuck. And so I think that the word judging, to me, has some finality to it. When in reality, it's just potentially one reaction, one result, one outcome. That doesn't necessarily mean the next time you do something similar or with modifications that you're going to get that again. Whereas in a in a trial, the judge makes a decision and that sets precedent. And that precedent is then used over and over and over and over again to look at other situations. And so I think the word judging is the one that challenges me. I think that it just is seen as a final judgment that holds so many of us back. Does that make any sense?
It does. It makes a lot of sense. I was thinking as you were talking that it's not just that we judge ourselves. I want to put an adjective before judging ourselves that would be harshly. I am very harsh in my judgments. I am very, if you said, is the cup half full or the cup half empty when I'm judging my actions, the cup is always half empty. There's the negatives outweigh the positives. And you've even helped me with that several times, like many times, where you're like, well, this went well, right? I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. That did, right. Oh, good thought. Okay. And I had someone do that the other day. I was lamenting something and he explained to me, he's like, you've accomplished your goal twice. You think you've failed numerous times. And I'm telling you, you've accomplished your goal twice. And I was like, no, but, and he's like, no, what was your goal? Your goal was this. You've achieved this result. So, and I couldn't see it. I was too busy looking at the negatives along the way. And I think judging tends to be negative. And I'm trying more and more when I'm judging myself to think of the positives. The positives of our program today, even though it's been a technical mess, I almost said something worse, we got through it. And I think I got to share some things and I just kept going. And we've learned that over time. If you go back to our first programs, it was really a mess when we had technical issues. Now it's sort of like, okay, here we go. Figure it out. Bob, you're on screen, go. There was no discussion. And you came back and we just bopped into it. We could judge that and be like, oh, we have the wrong internet. Oh, we have the wrong computer systems. Oh, I didn't close enough of my tabs. Oh, this, that. Or it can be, you know what? Here's what we might do differently next time. But also here are the things we take from that. And I'm really trying to build that mindset because the successes that come from these adverse situations can really drive you forward to the next situation. And you start to think, well, boy, if I could handle this technical problem, I could probably handle that technical problem. I could do this. Like I was thinking as I was speaking while you weren't here, like, boy, I've been lucky when I'm on stage. I haven't had a lot of problems. And this is a great tryout for that. Like, wow, can you just keep rolling on when things start to go haywire? And there's a positive to come out of it. And didn't even think about it till I was talking through it now. Now, is that judgment? Absolutely. Judgment is, wow, I can do this thing and I can do this in a way that will work if I'm put in this situation again. What do you think about all that?
Yeah, I think, it's interesting. You started out with adding an adjective. And I think the more and more I think about it, I think adjectives slow us down one way or the other. Is that, you said judge harshly. Okay. Even if you judge favorably, does that really help? Because the situation is going to be different the next time you come and do it again. And so either way, it's just a judgment. And again, as to me, I think that the judgment has some finality to it that I think is limiting for us.
Okay.
And I think that that's when we start to think about that in one way or the other. Because think about it, if you were judging more favorably, wow, this was awesome, amazing, and whatever, and we've got this down, and there's no issues that are ever going to arise. I'll just keep rolling along. Likely that's when something's going to come up and challenge you, because you're going to walk into a new day, a new situation. We put this show on and maybe your internet isn't working, or the internet goes away forever. Imagine that. And
whoa, Tom, you've made some cars go off the road right there with that.
Wow, I don't know that that's going to happen, and I can't control it if I did. So I think
can't live without my TikTok.
Do you want to introduce who you are on TikTok so
No,
people can follow you?
Nope. Keep going.
Not Bob the business coach?
Bob the business coach.
And I think that's the challenge with judgment. That might be added to the list of words that shall no longer be said by Tom Brush. I'm not sure that helps us. I think it is just unless it's in a court case, because that's a reality. That's just the way the process is there. But I think in our own lives, the moment we start to judge is the moment we stop learning. And because now all we're doing is reacting to something that's already happened, and we can't change it ever. That has happened. It's done. It's past. I mean, I don't know. Maybe there is a time machine and we can go backwards and do all those things. And still, as far as I know, there isn't. And so we are stuck with what happens. And the more time we spend judging it, because I think judging is different than evaluating. I just think that there's a very different sense in that. When in judgment, like I said, is final. A judgment means I've made a judgment. Sounds like it'll never change. Where if I'm evaluating it, I'm trying to understand it so that I can move forward differently. Maybe people think that with a judgment, you can move forward differently. I just think that judgment lives in your head and keeps you from being willing to move forward because you're so concerned that the exact same thing could happen again. Does that make any sense?
It does make sense. It does make sense. So, Tom, as we get to the point where we want to share our one thing, I know that a lot of people are struggling, because I struggle, with your whole approach that, we shouldn't judge ourselves. I think that's something that, starts at a very young age and can certainly, for me, fester and expand and grow, and it takes on a life of its own. You've coached a lot of people through this. What would you suggest to the person who is prone to judging themselves? Like me. Well, me pretty well, and I judge myself all the time.
I think it's a lot about that we think we can control things, and that we think things are going to be perfect, and that when they aren't, something has to be wrong. And and it's funny because I feel like that's the case out on like as I officiate women's and girls lacrosse, and out on the field there are the fans who think, or fans in general of any sport, feel like this is the result we got before, and based on other results, this is the result that's going to happen the next time. And when that doesn't happen, the first thing we do is, rather than try to understand, one, every day is a new day and every situation is new, and every game or every competition is completely different, just like every sales call is different, or every meeting with your team is different and unique, and it's going to have its own things that come from it. And so we can sit and pass judgment, which is what a lot of people will do. Well, it was this person's fault and that person's fault, and this didn't happen, and this went on. Okay, so what does that do? That you've passed blame on someone or something else. The number of times I hear people say, well, you just blew the whole game on one call that I made, and disregarding all the other things that have happened in a game. And so that is an easy way to pass blame either on ourselves or on someone else, rather than trying to understand what happened and leverage that as we move forward. I have done a pretty good job of knowing that I'm going to make incorrect calls in a game, or that others are going to see, or that my perspective is different than another perspective. And if I had two perspectives, if I had the camera angle, I might have made a different decision. Guess what? I don't. And so all I can do is say I did the best that I could in the moment, and then try to understand other perspectives and use those to move forward. Say, how would this look if I was over there? How would this feel if I was listening to this sales call conversation, not the one who was trying to make the call? How would this feel if I was on the other end of the phone receiving this phone call and thinking about it from the potential purchaser's perspective? And I think that rather than try to learn and understand from all of that, we just go back and say, well, that call didn't go well at all. And now that's the fifth call in a row that hasn't gone well. And so, geez, I don't know that I really want to make any more calls, even though the calls that you need to make, you have to make if you're going to be able to move forward. The meetings you have with employees or team members, you can't just say, nah, that meeting didn't go well, so we're never having another meeting ever again. Or you go into it and you're so worried about every meeting because the last one didn't go as planned. It has no bearing whatsoever necessarily on the next one that's going to happen. And so I think that would be my advice, is just to, one, think that you can't control everything. And when you think you can, it becomes, you likely don't get results that you expected. And when we don't get results that we expect, it becomes very easy to start judging ourselves. And so I think that's part of the whole process, is to back things all up and be like, all I can do is the best that I can with the knowledge, experience, and perspective I have at the moment. And then try to understand it and figure out how that changes so that I can move forward and not spend time just beating myself up over something that happened in the past that I can't change.
We tend to judge based on our own experience. It's a very internal thing. I judge based on what I know about me. Rarely do I factor in other elements into that. When I'm judging myself most harshly, all the other factors go out the window. And I think that's to my detriment. I was realizing that judging is a very lonely business for the most part.
Sure.
Yes, when you're on the lacrosse field, you have the outside influences of people saying, yes, that was a great call or a horrible call. But still, it's very internal. You're left with your own knowledge, perspective, and experience, and that's all you have. You can't, because what you do, I know you do this all the time. You'll go back, look at the film, you'll ask people that you respect, hey, how did I do with this? So you're trying to expand that perspective, expand that knowledge and experience. But I think so often when we're judging, we're doing it very immediately, and we're doing it on a very small set of expertise, because if we're doing something unique going forward, we don't know all the things that we've done. And I think that's where I'm struggling in my head. It's like I'm judging myself based on what I want to have happen, even though I realize I have no idea how I'm going to get there. So if I'm judging myself along the way, I'm hurting myself. I'm slowing myself down. And it's a silly thing. As I say it out loud, it sounds really silly, but it happens in my head all day long.
Well, I think it a little bit goes back to, your expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's if you went into it and said, I have no expectations of whatever this action is that I'm trying to take. It would be nice if this is the way it was. All I can control is taking the action.
Right.
I can't control what anybody else is going to think, feel, say, do, believe about the rest of it. And as long as I believe I have value, I've added value, done the best that I could, I can't control the rest. I was talking with one of our Renegade Success members yesterday, and they had gotten back some feedback back on something that they were working on for a client. And like most of us, spent an awful lot of time on the one or two comments that weren't what they expected.
Can't imagine.
And I asked them, I said, well, how much time have you spent diving into and trying to learn from those that were quote unquote positive? And they're like, well, not very much. I just focused on these. I'm like, well, why? The ones that you see as quote unquote negative, it's just feedback from one person amongst all the other feedback. I think they had like 20 total responses. And even if 19 of the 20 were ones that you didn't like because they were quote unquote negative, that you still added value to the one person who thought the presentation or the action went well. And sometimes I wonder why that isn't enough.
Well, I think we're striving for perfection. Hey, Tom, my sister's with us this morning, and she weighed in with, good morning. Judging yourself is hard because you think everything is going well. If someone else judges you, it's easy to take what they say to heart. Thank you, Beth. Appreciate that. Good morning.
Thanks, Beth. Well, and I think the one thing I would just, everything is going well is a judgment on how it is going. I think it's just, if we're thinking about we're doing the best that we can, given what's real for us in the moment, the results we can't control. And I think so often that's the thing, is we think everything has to go well, or we think everything is going poorly. And so everything else is going to continue to go poorly. Not necessarily the case. And likely the fact that because other things we believe have gone poorly, we're going to judge that other things don't go as well as they may have, because we're not always going to get all the feedback, all the results that we could, because not everybody's going to share that. People are going to walk away and be like, oh yeah, well, it was awesome to have a chance to connect and engage with Beth, and that was great, and I should probably say something to her, and then I forget and I go on and do a million other things.
Right.
And the one person who says, yeah, that wasn't an interaction that I enjoyed, we take that as like the only feedback because it's the one that we received. But even though we put out a ton of value all the time and don't get feedback on that, doesn't mean it doesn't add value to the world.
Wow, we've covered a lot of ground today.
So do you want to offer your one thing?
I think my one thing is that we tend to judge ourselves really harshly, and we tend to have a very limited set of knowledge, experience, and perspective with which to judge things. So when we can only judge by what we know, odds are we're probably not going to meet the expectations that we set for ourselves because we expect to be really good at stuff on the first try. When I finally let go of being a good golf player and just enjoy going out and playing golf, I play better golf. When I start to care a lot, oh, that was a horrible shot. What was I thinking? I don't enjoy it. When I enjoy it and I don't worry about the shot to shot, it's just like, you know what? I'm outside. I'm having fun. I don't care. I literally don't care. I could shoot 100 or I could shoot 200. Doesn't matter to me.
Now you're just a golfer.
Right.
The whole idea of putting that adjective in there of good means that now there's some expectation of however you have defined good, rather than just I want to be a golfer. I want to get to the point where I can go out there on a regular basis and just enjoy and understand that sometimes I'm going to hit really great shots and sometimes I'm not. And
I understand the second one really well.
And you're going to keep hitting shots.
Yeah.
That's the important piece.
God willing.
The fact that and here's the funny thing, is that when you hit a shot that you don't get the results you expect, you have the opportunity to hit another one
Yes.
that can change, that the results can then change.
Yes.
You know, how boring would it be if you always hit good shots, quote unquote, good shots? You just hit a shot.
I'd like to try that for a week or two just to see. Sign me up for that.
Well, why can't you do that?
I can't hit great shots for, well, I guess if I'm not judging, every shot's a great shot.
Every shot is a shot that has results. That's the piece that I was saying is, well, how could you get to the point where it's just an action that I take? And that I'm not going to judge it as good, bad, indifferent. I'm just going to take it. And I'm going to look at the results that I had and say, okay, interesting. How does that impact what I might do the next time? And it may not impact it at all because they may not be conclusive. You might say, oh, some people thought it was, you would say it was quote unquote awesome. Other people would say, nah, it stunk. Some might say, some might not have any reaction at all whatsoever.
Right.
And you can't even, we always take those as
negative.
Yeah. So this Renegade Success Net member I was talking to, had like 6 or 8 people who didn't respond. And I could see the wheels spinning in their head of like, well, they must not have really liked it or otherwise they'd have filled it out. Talk about a judgment. There is a judgment. We have no idea why those people didn't fill it out. None. And yet we go to, well, there must have been something quote unquote wrong. And that's where I think that's to me is the piece about judgment. And I know now why I struggled with saying we should have a conversation around why it matters. Because I think that while it matters in a court case because a decision has to be made. And I think it matters, judging matters because at some point we have to evaluate between different actions. Mm-hmm. And we have to say, okay, based on what I know, this is the action I'm going to take and move forward. I think when we start judging the actions we have taken, we do nothing but get ourselves frustrated, stuck, overwhelmed, and usually unwilling or afraid to take the next step. I guess that's my one thing.
I think we probably have to come to the end, Tom. I know we could talk all day, but I know people are going to get frustrated and unwilling to listen or watch us if we don't end soon.
Because you're worried that they're judging how long our show's going?
Guess I am.
Okay. All right, everyone. So I guess that means it's a good time for us to start to wrap up the show. Thanks so much for being a part of this episode, as crazy as it was at the beginning. And thank you, Bob, for stepping in and covering while I was figuring out my technical issues. If you have one thing you'd like to share, we'd love to hear it. We'd love to hear your thoughts about judging ourselves. And does it matter? Does it have value or not? Because I think that will add to the conversation and add to others and get others to start thinking about why am I judging myself? And am I judging it as something that's final and it will not change? So please feel free.
I'm going to add another comment. This is from your friend Joe Stetka.
Oh,
good
excellent.
Points. There you go.
Thanks, Joe.
And from Nancy, Nancy Waring, we have great topic. So thank you for that. Really appreciate it. It's great feedback.
Absolutely.
Not that we judge, but it's always great to get feedback. So thank you all for your comments. Beth, Joe, Nancy, appreciate it. Makes it much more enjoyable for Tom and me, I know. And
remember,
I cut you off.
Just feedback. That's just feedback.
I enjoy feedback.
I think you enjoy quote unquote good feedback.
It doesn't bother me. I would agree.
Anyhow, everyone, thanks so much for being a part of our show today. If you'd like to continue this conversation, please feel free to join us inside the Ring of Renegades Facebook group, where we'll be talking about judging ourselves all week long in various ways. So please join us. If you're not yet a member, it's easy to do. Just go to Facebook, search for Ring of Renegades, and then ask to join. All you have to do is tell us why you're a renegade, and then you can become a part of our growing community of over 1,200 people who are trying to find their next step along their own unique pathway to success. So we look forward to seeing you inside the Ring of Renegades Facebook group, or we'll see you tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Eastern time, for our next edition of today's Antidote. Have a great day, everyone.
Hey, embrace the renegading you and appreciate some teacher that's helped you or your children. It'll make the world of a difference to them and maybe inspire them to help even more people.
I have 2 teachers in my family. I love it. All right, everyone. Have a great rest of the day. We'll see you soon. Thanks for listening to today's Antidote, powered by the Renegade Success Network. The Renegade Success Network helps you confidently create your own unique pathway to success. To learn more about the Renegade Success Network and how you can take your next step, follow us on Twitter, connect on LinkedIn, or join the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. For full details on how you can join our community, go to renegadesuccessnetwork.com. Embrace the renegade in you.